morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Jason Williams, and I'm with my tag team partner, Blake Castetter, and we are the Sunday Fun Day guys. Blake, Super Bowl weekend, finally here. Bittersweet, always bittersweet.
Right.
Bittersweet.
All this build up and lead up to the big game, and it's a game that I think most of America didn't want to see, but
Here we
still
are.
Super Bowl Sunday coming up tomorrow.
Yeah. So obviously everybody's prepping today. You'll see the grocery stores packed with people buying wings, whatever. I bought all my food yesterday, to be honest with you, because I knew today was going to be crazy. So I got a little jump on the game, but I
What
digress.
what
Go
what
ahead.
snacks are you making?
I got this taco dip I make that my mom really likes, so I'm making that for her. And then I'm making wings, some little smokies with some barbecue sauce. And I think that's it. Probably some other like stuff I could throw in the oven, like some fried, good fried food. Good
Right.
old American fried food. What about you?
Only plans I have so far. I had picked up some mozzarella sticks,
That's
and
good.
then Jonah asked for buffalo chicken dip.
That's always a good one.
I might get some wings, and that might call it a day.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, obviously, we are very excited for Super Bowl weekend, but we're also excited to tell you the winners of our first annual Sundays. Now, we unveiled the candidates, and excuse me, the categories and the candidates last week. So we're going to get right into it, folks. And Blake, do you want to start us off with the?
Well,
Go
let's.
ahead.
The only reason we have winners is because of the fanatics and other people out there that took time to vote. So
Yeah, we
we do
appreciate that.
appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Got a bigger response than I thought we would, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah,
We didn't end up with any ties. So thank you all for getting in those extra votes for us to help break those ties that we did have leading up to yesterday.
exactly.
So the Sundays,
Yes.
the big one.
Mhm,
Fantasy MVP weeks 1 through 17.
mhm.
Wasn't my guy, wasn't my vote, but Saquon Barkley came in with 44% of the votes.
Yeah.
Ended the season as RB1, averaged 21 points per game played. I mean, and I saw an interesting stat. This is wild, Jason.
I know where you're
Did
going. Go
did you
ahead.
know Gabe Davis's contract, 3 years, 37 million, is more than Saquon Barkley's 3-year contract?
I didn't think you were going there, but no, I did not know that.
I
Whoa.
saw that this morning, and I was
Wow.
like, Gabe Davis, who was non-existent at all this year,
Shoo.
to our fantasy MVP and possibly the best running back in the league, and their contracts were similar.
That's well, good for Philadelphia, but not so good for Jacksonville. And hence the reason Philadelphia is in the Super Bowl, or maybe Jacksonville has to rethink some things.
Same with the Giants.
Yes, exactly. Well, Saquon, well deserving of the fantasy MVP. I'll go right into the fantasy rookie of the year now. Tough category, but in the end, we all know who was the fantasy rookie of the year. It was none other than Jane Daniels, who got 61% of the vote, probably one of the highest totals of the votes, right, Blake, in terms of categories?
I'll pull it up while we're here,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was a decent number for sure. That
yeah,
was yes, that was the highest.
yeah. So Jane Daniels, I mean, he's taken home some hardware over the last couple of days. What can you say about this guy? Rookie coming into an organization, let's be honest, that was not very good and has literally changed the trajectory of the organization, of the fan base. And it goes to show you if you hit it right on quarterback, it changes your outlook for the next 10 years. Now, Washington is not a laughing stock. Now Washington is a contender. Now people want to actually come to Washington to play.
Yes, let's go to Washington. People are wanting to be traded there to be a
Yeah,
part of that organization now.
exactly. And you could not have said that a year ago.
No
Not at all.
chance.
No chance.
In
So
that, let's see. So Brock Bowers got 33% of the votes.
mm,
And then it looks like Malik Neighbors came in with one vote.
mm,
So it was 100% Bowers and Daniels,
Daniels.
aside from one vote that went to Malik Neighbors.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, Bucky Irving and Brian Thomas Jr. didn't even get a vote.
Mm. Tough category.
It was.
Yeah,
But it was
top
kind of
heavy.
a runaway. Like we knew that one of those two was going
Yeah,
to get
it
it.
was definitely top heavy for sure. For sure.
Waiver wire edition of the year. Winner went to Baker Mayfield
Shake and bake.
with 39% of the votes. That was another one that wasn't really even close. The next closest was Bucky Irving with 28%. But from there on, it was like little slivers for everybody else.
And ironically enough, both of those guys play for Tampa. So again, your quarterback has a kind of a comeback season, and you hit it big in the draft with a guy that nobody saw coming, and Bucky Irving. Hence the reason Tampa Bay was a playoff team and much better than people thought they would be.
We'll see how next year goes. Everyone was going to want to be a part of that offense.
Oh, no doubt.
But they don't have an offensive coordinator.
Duval. Duval. I had to. I couldn't resist it. So congratulations to Baker. Next award is our playoff MVP, weeks 15, 16, and 17. And the winner, and not surprising whatsoever, Jahmyr Gibbs with 39% of the vote. I mean, what can you say about this guy? Stepped up when David Montgomery got hurt and probably led you, if not to the championship, at least into the championship round.
Yeah, he was a model of consistency through the playoffs. 25 points, 23 points, 24 points. You had other players that had an explosion week, like Jonathan Taylor with 39 points one game, but another game he had 10. Jahmyr Gibbs did get 38%. Next closest was Lamar with 22%.
Yep.
Which makes sense with 36, 21, and 29 over those 3 weeks.
Yes. Yeah.
So now on to some of the fun ones.
Yes, let's get to the fun stuff.
The non-traditional awards. You've got our Beer Goggles Award, which is, as a reminder, the underwhelming performance following big off-season hype.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I feel to my core, this was my vote. He was my quarterback. Drafted. It's CJ Stroud.
Hold on 1 second. There you go, CJ.
Welcome to the leaderboard. CJ Stroud had 28% of the votes. He ended the season at QB 18, only cracked 20 points one time. 8 of his games were under 12.5 points. And after the addition of Diggs, Joe Mixon, I mean, the offseason hype was real deal for him, but he hit that sophomore slump like a car running into a brick wall.
Yeah. And I think, CJ, he had some injuries to his guys. I mean, Tank Dell got hurt at the end of the year. Obviously, Nico Collins was hurt. And
Diggs got hurt.
And his offensive line wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had issues. So, again, as I always say, that second year, they pay the other guys too. And I think teams kind of saw the book on CJ. Hey, if you get pressure on this guy and knowing that their offensive line was not as good as they were last year, then you got a chance. And essentially that's what happened. So Houston, they need to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out what worked, his first year and try to duplicate that. But it's tough, man. It's a tough league.
I mean, he still led him to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But not fantasy playoffs.
No, not at all. Not at all. So the next category is Bitter Beer Award. Oh man, I think this one was a no-brainer myself. But the winner is Breece Hall. And you talk about Mr. Inconsistency. And Blake went through the numbers, man. He was the most inconsistent good player in fantasy this year. And he won this award with 33% of the votes, Blake.
It's insane how inconsistent he was. I mean, it was just a roller coaster. You didn't know whether to start him or not start him.
Yeah, that's I'm glad I didn't have him because I wouldn't want them problems. I had enough bad apples on my team, but this one I didn't want at all.
I mean, and so many people traded him away or traded for him because of this roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back. He's on fire. And then he wasn't.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
So there was behind Breece Hall, there was actually a pretty close race with Travis Etienne, Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, okay.
They tailed him pretty closely. They were only a
Okay.
couple votes off.
Nice. Very nice.
Our next award, bartender, I will have another. It tasted so good, you just want a little bit more of it, another drink. We
Another
won't
one.
go into last night's festivities, but I can appreciate this one. Baker Mayfield, second award.
Second award.
He got 50% of the votes, and he ended up QB5 on the season. Only 3 games under 18 points. I mean, it wasn't even close. He ran away with this one. Congrats, Baker.
Yeah, I mean, again, to go back to nobody saw it coming. I mean, nobody saw this coming. So again, waiver wire pick of the year, and then you wanted another one. A bartender will have another one award winner. So we got a 2-time winner, our first 2-time winner. Go ahead, Baker.
Get you some.
Get you some. Well, the next category is one that, hey, some people have been through, and some people are lucky enough maybe not to have been through, but it's the walk of shame. Player that you were embarrassed to say you kept pitting your lineup. And honestly, I am in this category because I had this player on my team. So it was definitely a walk of shame every week. And that player is none other than Tyreek Hill with 50% of the vote for the walk of shame. Man, a guy that was a top 5 pick, top 8 pick, number maybe 1 or 2 receiver off the board, to have the year he had or not the year he had was disappointing would be an understatement.
It brings back memories of Austin Eckler the year before.
Ooh.
If we had had the Sundays in 2023,
Oh, he would have swept them.
I wouldn't have put any other nominations in there because Eckler was the biggest dud of 2023 without questions. And you were going to start him because he was your first round pick.
Exactly.
How do you sit him?
Right. And Tyreek Hill was fit that bill exactly.
Yep.
100%.
You think he's Tyreek Hill. Doesn't matter what quarterback he has. You just got to give him the ball. He'll make a big play. That did not pan out.
Had one good game, the first game of the year, and that was it.
Yeah.
Crickets. Amazing.
Well, after a walk of shame, sometimes the walk of shame is a result of a slump buster. So our next category was the Slump Buster Award. We've all been there. The player that was either injured and returned, or was a later draft pick that you kept getting you out of a losing streak. We had some good nominations with this one. Josh Jacobs, was RB2 weeks 11 through 17. So if you had kept riding him, even though he hadn't scored those touchdowns early in the season, first 8-9 weeks, whatever it was, he paid off. Same with Justin Herbert during weeks 8 through 11. Chuba Hubbard, he crushed it, finished RB12 on the season, only scored just about 10 points combined through the first 2 weeks. But Puka Nacua, when he came back, if you held on to him after his injury, when he came back, he was wide receiver 2 in weeks 10 through 15. He's our winner with 44% of the votes.
Yeah, a guy that when he's in there, he's pretty much unstoppable. And the guy now, from what we hear, is essentially going to be the number 1 receiver, with the Rams basically saying to everybody, hey, we're trading Cooper Kupp. So Puka, if he can keep himself healthy, he's in line for a super huge year next year. It'll be interesting to see where he ranks in the receivers in terms of preseason rankings next year. But kudos to him, came back and ripped it up after the injury.
He did. And that, his success was partially the driver for a couple of those goose egg games that Cooper Kupp had.
Yeah, no question. Well, the next category, the Mr. Steal Ya Girl category.
That's a favorite. I love it.
Yeah, not Mr. Steal Your Girl, Mr. Steal Ya Girl. So it is the best draft steal based on final average draft position. And the winner is Chase Brown of the Bengals. Now, he won by 34% of the vote. Again, this was another tough category because there were some guys that were later round picks that really balled out. Obviously, Jayden Daniels, Chuba Hubbard, Brian Thomas Jr. come to mind. But for the impact Chase Brown had in fantasy, especially over the second half of the year, clearly you can see why he won this award.
He only won it by 1%. 34 to 33. Jayden Daniels came in at 33%. That was the closest race of all the awards.
Makes sense. Definitely
does.
makes sense. Yeah.
And I think it was those two most deserving, in my opinion, as well. Had
Agreed.
had Jaden Daniels continue doing what he did the first 4 weeks,
Yes.
this would have been a runaway, no question asked.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But he had injury, and then he hit a lull period where defenses started to figure him out a little bit, and the offense was changing their approach.
Mhm.
But the Bengals just kept leaning on Chase Brown, not only in the running game but the passing game.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's what kind of set Chase Brown apart. It wasn't necessarily the running game, but it was the amount of carries in terms of volume he would get passing and running. So
Lots of touches, yeah.
Lots of touches. Yep.
Where do you think he goes next year?
It depends on what the Bengals do in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals, they may bring back Zach Moss, but I would not be surprised if they drafted a running back. And if they do, I can see him maybe third or fourth round.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking third.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think he's made himself, even though he was a top 10 RB for second half of the season, I don't think he's pushed that second round, first round.
No, we're not there yet. Yeah. Yep.
Next category, biggest single game explosion. And there's some big ones. But this wasn't even a close race. So we had Josh Allen at 51 points, Joe Burrow at 33 points, Juwan Jennings at 41, Taysom Hill at 38, and Barkley at 44, I'm sorry. But the one that stood out was Jamar Chase's 49.9 against Baltimore in week 10.
Yeah.
He got 44% of the votes, almost half the votes.
Wow.
And as I looked at this, I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm surprised Josh Allen didn't get more. Josh Allen ended up with 16%.
Yeah.
He had the highest point total. So when we're talking about biggest single game explosion,
Sure.
But as I thought about it, I just have to assume that part of people's rationale is it's not expected for a wide receiver to get 49.9. We've seen quarterbacks get 51, 33, 41, et cetera.
Right.
But for a wide receiver to hit 49.9,
yeah.
I mean, that was that week where everyone was like, oh man, if you went up against Jamar Chase on Thursday Night Football, you might as well just write off the rest of your game for the season of the week.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yep. And I agree with you 100%. I think because Josh Allen has been so consistent with his numbers, and not that Jamar had not been, but if we're talking about explosion, if Josh Allen's always consistent, then where does he have that explosion? Obviously the 51-point game for him, but when Chase, when he had that game and the magnitude of the game and knowing that Baltimore couldn't do anything with him, he was just getting, it was ridiculous. So I think people being on a Thursday night, the national spotlight on him and watching that game, even though Josh Allen's game was on national TV, I just think, Jamar's out, that game was special. No question.
How many Bengals we got awarded so far?
I believe two.
Chase Brown and
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase.
We'll have to hit him up on the socials, right?
Uh-huh.
So our last award is the He's on Fire award. So let's an ode to NBA Jams, one of the best video games ever created, especially back in the day. Now the technology's changed, but listen, everybody still loves a good game of NBA Jam. So the winner, and we had some interesting nominees, but the winner is Alvin Kamara. And it totally makes sense because when Blake posted this in weeks 1 through 4, which is what the category consists of, Kamara was the #1 overall fantasy player and #1 running back. And he won this award with 39% of the vote. Now, again, we have to, it's February, so we're talking the beginning of the season. Nobody remembers the output Alvin Kamara had in September because of the drastic tail off after the first month
of the entire Saints team.
Yeah, you're right. Of the entire Saints.
The entire team just tanked.
The entire tanked.
So I think that's a deserving of pick, though. I wasn't excited about it because of how the rest of the season went for him. But in reality, we're talking weeks 1 through 4, and he did have a couple games where he exploded.
Exactly.
Putting up big point totals, the #1 overall fantasy player. So it's hard to vote against that.
Totally.
All right. So those are our first year Sundays. award winner. So we're all set. So now we can start keeping track and, seeing how many nominations each player gets, and we can build on this. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting who gets the nods next year. We probably will have some new guys. We'll have some guys that we never heard of. We'll probably have some status quo guys, and you know, hopefully, we can have some new faces and new places, and maybe some new categories. Who knows? We'll see.
Maybe.
Stay tuned.
We're going to have to get creative.
Yeah.
Well, so we've wrapped up the Sundays. Now we're getting ready to wrap up the NFL season. How do you think this game is going to go? Super Bowl Sunday, as you look at the offense that we know so well with Kansas City, fairly good defense, but not great. You've got Philly, who's got a good offense and a great defense, number one defense overall in the NFL.
Right.
You got a 48.5 point over-under on DraftKings.
Right.
Chiefs are favored by 1.5, so I think it's going to be close.
Right.
How do you see this game playing out?
Whoa, well, I think it's going to be a lot different than the first time they played, because I literally just got done watching the first time they played. I didn't realize how much of a shootout it was, and that 48.5 point number is a very interesting number, considering the two defenses are much better than the last time they played, especially Philly. Philly's defense is way better. I'm watching this game like, oh my God, some of the guys they had on their team weren't able to compete. Now this is a whole different Philly defense. I mean, they pretty much transformed their defense. So I'll break it down. The keys to the game, I think it's in the trenches. I think it's the linemen. Can Philly's defensive line get them homes? Can Kansas City's offensive line protect Mahomes and run the ball? Can Philly's offensive line run the ball with Saquon? And then can Kansas City and Chris Jones get to Jalen Hurts? I could go into a whole lot of other particulars, but it starts up front and it ends up front. Whoever can do that the best, either or, is probably going to win the game. And there's some great matchups in those interior lines. I mean, usually people don't talk about the lines, but in this game, there are some studs on both sides of the ball. And I usually don't talk about, everybody wants to talk about the receivers. And obviously, you got the Saquons, you got the Patricks, you got the Kelseys, you got the Hurts, you got the Slim Reapers, you got the Goddards. All those guys are going to play a pivotal role in the game. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to which line dominates the other line, essentially, in my opinion.
Yep. That's great. I love it. That's not far off from what I was thinking. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'm taking the under, and that's one of my bets coming up. But I think it's going to be lower scoring, and there's going to be more field goals on the Kansas City side. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I don't think it's going to be a lot of explosive plays. There might be one or two, but I was looking at like the longest runs and the longest touchdowns and the longest receptions. I don't like a lot of them.
Yeah,
I really don't. I don't know which one it's going to be. I don't know who it's going to be that breaks one off, but I don't think there'll be many. So I'm staying away from that. One bet I did see on the same note, DraftKings has the shortest touchdown run over or under 1.5 yards. How you feel about that?
Well, with the tush push,
I know.
That's an interesting bet, yeah. Because again, I watched the game, the last Super Bowl between the two teams, and Hurts, they pushed him in from about the 2 or 1.
That's what I'm saying. They're not afraid to go for it from 2.
Yeah. So that'll be because they'll do it twice, But that's an interesting prop bet, no question.
Speaking of bets, let's jump in. Let's get into the Sunday. I don't know. It's like 12, 18 pack.
Well, it's a 6-pack for us both, essentially, is what it is. So we're taking it easy. It's Saturday, it's not Sunday yet, but we're easing ourselves into Super Bowl weekend with a little bit of a 6-pack. So I'll go ahead and start first. These bets are from FanDuel, and I'll go ahead and start with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown score. Now, a lot of the stats I'm going to pull, folks, are from the meeting on Monday Night Football in 2023 and also the Super Bowl matchup, Super Bowl 57. So anytime touchdown score. So Jalen Hurts in his last 2 meetings against the Kansas City Chiefs has 5 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 in the Super Bowl, and then he had 2 in the Monday night matchup. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this one.
What did you see on the line there? Do you
Uh,
remember?
I don't remember. I think it was. I feel like it was plus.
Oh, on the plus side.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I
No, no,
feel
no.
like
Just curious because
yeah,
I think if you're going to take a safe bet, it's either Hurts or Barkley, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no question.
One of those two is most likely going to land in the end zone.
Let's see. I got you right here. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was minus 115. So yeah,
Okay.
there you go. Yep. So, like I said, I feel safe about that one because of the history and because of again the matchup. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles want to run the ball with Barkley and Hurts, and if they want to win, I think they keep the ball out of Kansas City's hands and chew up the time of possession. So I see that happening. Now, my next bet is the Slim Reaper over 52 and a half yards receiving and over 4.5 receptions. So in the two matchups, again, I'm going to go back to the two matchups against the Chiefs. Smith had 13 receptions for almost 200 yards on 17 targets. Seems like a lot to me, considering A.J. Brown's stat line has not been great against Kansas City. 2 games, 7 receptions for 104 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets. The key is going to be, does McDuffie lock down A.J. Brown? And if he does, I think that benefits the Slim Reaper and the next guy I have on my list in terms of bets.
So I'm leaning on the AJ Brown side, and I understand McDuffie, and some of my picks later on are AJ Brown oriented picks because yes, McDuffie is going to shadow him.
Yep.
And he's a top tier corner without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But Kansas City does run a ton of man defense. So I'm curious to see how this pans out because AJ Brown really hasn't been part of the game script at all in the playoffs.
But and again, I go back to the matchups. He only had 1 catch, I believe, in the Super Bowl, and then he had 6 catches in the matchup on Monday night. So again, just kind of the game within the game because L'Jarius Sneed was the quarterback then, and McDuffie was kind of the second guy, but now McDuffie's the guy. So that's going to be an interesting matchup, which leads me into my next bet, which is Dallas Goedert over 49.5 yards. So in Super Bowl 57, Goddard's stats were 6 receptions for 60 yards on 7 targets. Very, very efficient. So I think the focus is going to be a lot on Philly's receivers as well as should be. And that's where I think Dallas can have a big game, especially if Kansas City, which they're known to do, starts to blitz and Jalen Hurts needs to get the ball out of his hands quickly.
Since he's returned from injury, when he came back in week 18, he's been on fire.
Oh, yeah.
This line just keeps going up and up, his receiving line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, week 18 was like 24 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're up to 49.5. And everything you're saying makes sense. Kansas City over the season, 5th worst against tight ends.
Tight ends, oh yeah.
Now, the past 4 weeks, they're top 10. Mm-hmm. But over the season, 5th worst against tight ends. So I like this pick.
Yep. So now I gave you 3 Eagles that I think are that I have a confidence in terms of betting. Now I'm going to give you 3 Chiefs. So of course, the first one is Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown scorer. And obviously I can look at the stats. I don't really, with him, I kind of throw out the stats. So here's the thing. Fanatics, it's Mahomes and Kelce. And they have this thing where the bigger the stage, the bigger they play. And there's no other bigger stage than the Super Bowl. So with that being said, I think Travis Kelce scores a touchdown. Now, do I think the Chiefs win? Who knows? But I think on this stage, and we've seen it time and time again, the bigger the stage, the bigger these two guys play. And I expect Travis Kelce to score a touchdown.
That's like Saquon Barkley. You really can't go wrong with throwing a little bit of money at that one.
Exactly. Now, this one is very interesting. Isaiah Pacheco over only 28.5 yards rushing. This seems really, really low for a guy that in his last 2 meetings against the Eagles has averaged 17 carries for 80 yards. And again, I know Kareem Hunt is there, and I know Philly's defense is stout, but I think in this matchup, with Philly's defense being so good, I think it bodes better for Pacheco than necessarily Kareem Hunt. So that's something to keep an eye on. But 28.5, I think he gets over that.
All it takes is one chunk play.
Right. And this one shocked me more than anything. And again, obviously Kareem Hunt is there and he's got a lot more play, and obviously Andy Reid trusts him. But I think again in this matchup, with Kareem Hunt's more of a kind of a plotter. I mean, he's a little bit shifty, but Isaiah Pacheco runs hard and is shifty. And I think against Philly, you're going to have to get those tough yards, but you're going to have to make cuts because they're going to be pursuing the ball heavily. So I like this one.
I've been
The la-
shocked at how little Pacheco's been used. I thought
Oh,
they were
yeah.
saving him for the playoffs. I thought that when he came back and was healthy, because those last couple of weeks when he was available,
Yeah.
they didn't really use him. And
Yep.
so I thought they were saving him for the playoff run, because if you look back at the stats with Pacheco in the playoffs, he's been a workhorse.
Oh, yeah.
And now all of a sudden they're not. So maybe they've been saving him for the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. So my last one is Xavier Worthy, 5.5 rushing yards for the game. Now, again, this is another one I feel pretty good about for the simple fact that Andy Reid's had 2 weeks to prepare for the Eagles and will try to exploit any matchups. And I specifically think with Xavier Worthy, he's really going to try to get him in various positions, split out, slot, backfield, reverses. You can't teach the speed that Worthy has, and Andy Reid will take advantage of that world-class speed. So 5.5 rushing yards. Like I said, I feel good about this one.
He's going to get 2 carries.
Right.
He's going to get at least 2 carries in the game. When they come and at what distance they need to get, I don't know. But with how elusive he is and fast he is,
right,
5.5. I mean, I didn't see that when I was looking at mine. So I'm going to have to look and see if that's available, because I like that one on DraftKings.
And then lastly, my favorite prop bet, which was, it kind of like threw me for a loop because it's the first player to record an octopus. I'm like, octopus? Like, what the hell is that? And then it's a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So when you put that together, it totally makes sense. So here are the lines for that. Saquon at plus 2,000, Hurts at plus 2,000, AJ Brown at plus 9,500, Kelsey at plus 10,000, Goddard 11,000, and Worthy at plus 17,000. So that's my favorite prop bet. A touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Now, if you remember the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So again, who knows?
Yeah, that's a fun one. As you look at this, though, you really got to consider who you really think is going to score a touchdown.
Right. Yeah. And more importantly, the 2-point conversion.
Well, where it starts, though, is the touchdown. You got to score the touchdown first, right? So
yeah.
Who you think? So you had to pick one.
I mean, I would pick money. I would pick Hurts because he did it before.
Okay.
Yep. So those are my bets for the Super Bowl. Yeah, you're up, buddy.
I really like the Xavier Worthy 5.5.
Oh man, that makes me like salivate.
Some of mine are a little bit out there, different than normal. Some of the ones we talked about last night. Mm-hmm. So again, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. Within 3 points, it's going to be a field goal. It might come down to a field goal at the end of the game, even. I like the plus 1.5. If you could tease that to 3.5, Philly getting plus 3.5 points, I think that's a very, very safe bet. I also think the under 48.5 for this game is fairly safe as well. Some places had it at 49. I'd like that extra 0.5 point, but 48.5, I feel pretty confident about. If you believe that that's how the game is going to go, like I do, some of these bets will make sense. One specifically is Harrison Butker, 2+ field goals made. So he has to make 2 field goals. That's at negative 177 on DraftKings. The Chiefs rank 22nd in red zone touchdown percentage this season. That's very much towards the bottom. Like now we're going against the Phillies defense that doesn't allow touchdowns in the red zone. I see Kansas City being able to move the ball, but I think they might get stuck when they get close. So 2 field goals seems like a lock to me. And if you like this one, DraftKings also has a Harrison Butker over 7.5 points. So 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals would get you to 8 points.
Yeah, if that's the way the game goes, then I would definitely put some money on that, especially if it's a lower scoring game. And we know, again, the numbers with KC's offense and the numbers with Philly's defense makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And Kansas City isn't known for going for it on 4th down like a Philly is or like a Detroit Lions are. They tend to take the points.
Yep.
Another one that I found that I like, Jalen Hurts first rush attempt over 3.5 yards. So if his first rush attempt ends up being a tush push, this thing is dead in the water, right?
Right.
You're going to get 1 yard, 2 yards. But if it's not, and I don't think it will be, I think this is a lock because Kansas City's defense allows the second highest rate of scrambles per dropback in 2024. They do a lot of man coverage, which equates to corners and linebackers turning their backs, right? They also run a lot of too high safeties. Kansas City is allowing an average of 7.9 yards per scramble. I think with all the dropbacks, I think Hurts is going to drop back. And at one point, he's going to take off running. His median on the year was just under 9 yards per scramble. Not his average, his median.
Right.
So if it's a drop back and a scramble or a designed run, 3.5 yards is easy. If it ends up being his first carry is a tush push,
Maybe
the
not
bet's
so
in
much.
trouble. But I think it's going to be designed or a scramble, and I think it's a lock. I was even looking at the Jalen Hurts rushing yards in the first quarter as a specialty bet, and Jalen Hurts leading the game with most rushing yards in the first quarter. One scramble and one, big run on that, and he could easily put up 20 yards, and that might be leading the team or leading the game at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, that's an interesting bet, to say the least. And could it happen? 100%. Now, again, it's all going to depend on how the game starts to flow, but I could definitely see that first rush being well over 3.5 yards. Yeah.
I'm going to put some money on it. Total Eagles players with a reception over 5.5. How do you feel about that one, Jason? We kind of touched on this last night. It's at plus 100. You've got AJ Brown.
Yeah, you got to go through the receivers. Yeah.
You got Slim Reaper, that's 2.
Right.
Dallas Goedert's 3.
Yep.
Those 3 are going to get receptions regardless.
Right.
But look at the rest. You've got Saquon Barkley. He usually ends up with 1 to 2.
1, 2, right.
Now we're at 4.
Right.
Where else do we go? Kenneth Gainwell.
And they get pretty. After that, it gets pretty dicey.
Well, Gainwell's going to get a reception if you believe that. Now we're down to 1 more player.
Right.
So you got Jahan Dotson, you got Grant Calcaterra, and then there's going to be other players that we probably aren't even considering that might end up with 1 reception. So I like that bet. I think we hit the over 5.5 players to record a reception.
Plus, if you consider this, what if somebody goes down?
Yeah.
If somebody gets hurt, then there's another opportunity for somebody to step up. And there's always an X factor in the Super Bowl, always.
Correct. And not only that, but what if there's a Hail Mary and it bounces around and, you got 4 or 5 receivers on the field and someone that we're not expecting comes up with it.
Sure.
Trick plays.
I like that.
Plus 5 or over 5.5 players to record a reception for Philly.
Like it.
AJ Brown receiving over 5.5 receptions. It's plus 111 on DraftKings. And I think with, again, Kansas City's experience running man, which AJ Brown excels in, I think it's safe to put 5.5. I'm even probably going to ladder it and look at 6.5 and 7.5 just for shits and giggles. Because once he gets 5.5, now I'm going to be rooting for AJ Brown the rest of the way. Get him one more, right? So the payout continues to grow into the 200s and 300s when you ladder this, but I feel confident about 5.5 receptions. Now on DraftKings, they've got a tab, game leaders. And this is what I was talking about. AJ Brown, most receptions in the game, plus 360.
Ooh.
No?
I'm not sure about that one. I don't like it.
All right.
You're on the AJ Brown. I'm on the Slim Reaper bandwagon. So I think I think that's what's gonna, it'll be interesting to see who throughout the game what happens. Like, does AJ Brown beat press man coverage, which he's the best at, or with the Slim Reaper being in the slot, does he get open and give Hurts, some check down stuff. So that's, again, the game within the game.
Mm-hmm. What about this one? Saquon Barkley leading the game in combined rushing and receiving yards.
I feel good about that one.
I do too. It's a negative 240, so the line isn't favorable. There's not a lot of juice left on it.
Yep.
But negative 240. All right, so my favorite prop bet.
Yeah.
Total players to have a pass attempt over 2.5 at plus 180. So you're going to have Mahomes and Hurts, right?
Right.
Guaranteed.
So that's 2.
Right. So those are guarantees. All you need is one trick play or one injury, and you've got 3.
True.
If you don't think that they're going to run a trick play, one of these teams at some point, someone's going to run a trick play. It's not going to be a traditional game. There's always a trick play. I love this bet. It hit last year, and I hit it last year. I'm staying with it again this year.
I can see that. Yeah, I mean, it's the Super Bowl. I mean, there's no more. There's this last game of the year. You know, there's always some crazy thing that happens in the Super Bowl. So I would not be surprised if. I mean, I can see Xavier Worthy throwing a pass. I mean, you know,
Philly special.
Philly special, yeah, 2.0. There you go. Yeah, I can see that happening. Yep.
There's either going to be an injury or a trick play. Most likely a trick play. But even if Patrick Mahomes twists an ankle and he's out for 2 drives,
right,
they're going to throw the ball.
Or Hurts is out. Yeah.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Because they both have capable backups that
Correct.
Can come in and at least hold down the fort if they come back.
So those are some of my favorites.
Interesting. Well, it's going to be honestly, I think it's going to be a good Super Bowl. It may not be the Super Bowl people want, but it has all the makings of a pretty entertaining Super Bowl. We know what's on the line: the Chiefs, 3-peat, the Eagles, redemption. So it's going to be one to watch for sure. And then we got the halftime show. Everybody's excited about that. And then all the commercials. It's the Super Bowl. Like, how can you not get excited about it, right?
So,
yeah,
Travis Kelce, if the Chiefs win, does Travis Kelce retire?
No, I don't think so.
Does Travis Kelce propose?
Oh God, please don't ask me that question.
And if he does she say yes or no?
Oh, if he proposes, she says yes. There's no question about that. Now, does he propose? I think Travis is a little bit more of a more debonair than proposing at the Super Bowl. I get it; it's a big stage, but I think he would, if he proposed, he would have a better setup. Now, again, I get it. What's better than Super Bowl? I was like, I think he wants to do it maybe more intimately, maybe if he's going to do it. But would I be shocked if he did? No. Would I be like, oh God? I'd be like, yeah, that's too much. If they wanted Andy proposed, no, that's too much. Too much. What do you think?
So I can see any of these storylines happening, even retiring and then coming back and going for a 4-peat.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what's your prediction for the game score real quick? What do you think?
23-20 Philly.
I think I would say 24-20 Philly.
Okay.
Yep. Both
let's
the others.
Go.
Yeah, let's go.
Hell go. Yeah. No more Chiefs. Let's end this shit.
Yeah. No. The Chiefs kingdom, you've got yours. So be happy, but not this year. Not this year, folks.
I think the addition of Saquon Barkley is going to be the differentiator.
Oh, 100%. There's no question. He's like, I watched that Super Bowl. They had Miles Sanders as their running back. Again, nothing against him, but come on. And they almost won that game. So you put Saquon in this and a better defense. And Kansas City is, you can make the argument they're not much better on offense than they were in that game. Now,
I don't think they are better.
Yeah, and their defense is probably the same. So that, again, I think Saquon is the difference maker in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Awesome, man.
Well, we still have some socials out there. Thank you again to Blake's point. Thank you for everybody, all the fanatics out there for voting on Facebook. And we still have the IG, and we're live on Facebook, right?
We're live on YouTube.
I'm sorry, YouTube. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
YouTube, Facebook, they all run together.
And then
go ahead.
Next year, we're going to add in TikToks. Why not?
TikToks it is. I can't wait to add the TikToks if it's still around. We don't know.
Right. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. Pending.
But if it is, we'll be there.
We don't know. We don't know. Pending.
But if it is, we'll be there.
Pending legislation. So, well, Blake, it's been a pleasure, buddy. Year number 2 in the books. It always goes fast. I appreciate all your efforts, and wouldn't want to do this with anybody else, buddy. Like I said, we've talked about this for a number of years, and we're actually doing it, and it's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the future, whatever that entails for us.
Can't wait.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, Fanatics, that's a wrap for this episode and the season of the Sunday Funday Guys Fantasy Football Podcast. And Fanatics, remember to make this Super Bowl Sunday your fun day. Sunday Funday Guys out. Nice. You get some rest.